You have IndyCar questions. I have IndyCar answers. This is the IndyCar news in 5 minutes, Indy 500 qualifying edition. And I'm IndyCar Dad. So the first question on everybody's mind is what's going on with Alexander Rossi and Pato? They both wrecked their cars in practice today. So what happens next? The first thing I want to talk about is I hear people talking about them putting together their spare car or jumping in the spare car. But spare cars are not allowed in IndyCar. They are allowed to have a bunch of spare parts, but they don't have a spare car. So what is going to happen now is the teams are going to have to decide which parts on the old car can be used and which parts cannot be used. And most importantly, the tub, which is the main structural component of the car. If they can reuse that, then they will just take broken parts off the tub and put new parts back on. If the tub is tubbed, what they call tubbed, meaning ruined, in which case Alexander Rossi's car is most certainly tubbed, and I've heard Pato's car is tubbed. So what they will have to do is they have to figure out which parts off of that car are worthwhile for keeping, and then they will have to move all of those parts, essentially disassembling the whole car and reassembling it on a new tub. So it's a mess. Also, they don't have a Pato's tub. Like Pato doesn't have a spare tub. McLaren has a spare tub. So all of the body work and everything like that has to be reskinned, and it's a giant, giant mess. So these teams are in for a lot of work. They have a few days, but they're in for a lot of work. Okay, second question is, do they start at the back since they crashed their cars, which in some races they would, but no, not at the Indy 500. At the Indy 500, there's so much practice after qualifying that if you do crash your car, you still maintain your starting position. So that's good. All right, I just heard that Alexander Rossi underwent some surgery on his finger and on his ankle, and that they have the full intent of having him participate on Sunday at the race. If he were to not participate, could they get a different driver in his seat? And the answer is that would be quite difficult. There are some drivers out there that only have to go through a refresher, meaning they've driven an IndyCar in the last year, like Callum Ilott, Robert Schwartzman, Linus Lundqvist, and even Devlin DeFrancesco, and even Marco Andretti drove an IndyCar last year. So they would have to do some laps and sessions to prove that they can get up to speed. Hunter McElroy is the official reserve driver for ECR, but he's never been in the 500, so he would have to do one more step, which is a rookie orientation. Is it possible? Possible, but if there were any rain or anything like that on the final remaining practice day, carb day on Friday, it would be really risky. So, that's that. So there's some risk there. So would a substitute driver, the fourth question is, would a substitute driver start up front where Alexander Rossi qualified in second? And the answer to that is no. Substitute drivers go to the back. The car number stays in its position, but drivers end up in the back. So if Alexander Rossi didn't make it, which it sounds like he's gonna make it, a substitute driver would start at the back. So I hope that answers those questions. All right, I try to do my best. I've read the entire rule book. So I try, if you come to me with questions, I can usually answer them for you. The next thing, let's talk about qualifying, man. It was great. I went down there. I drove 5 hours to get there. I drove 5 hours to get back. I left at 5 a.m. and I got home at 12:30 in the morning. So, but I had a great time. I love qualifying weekend, and I couldn't make it on Saturday. And when they squished it all into Sunday, I was thrilled. So let's talk about what's worth talking about. The top 10 is always worth talking about. Alex Blow on pole. You know, I like Alex, but I don't like seeing him dominate. Alexander Rossi second. That was a great run. David Malukas third. You know, he's doing great in the Penske. Fro was in fourth, which you would think I'd be so excited about, but actually he was first place in the first session when there were 33 cars, first place in the second session when there were 12 cars, and then they kept making him start last. Like when he was first place in the 33, he had to start last in the 12, past 12. That's a big disadvantage, and he was first anyway. Then they had to start sixth in the top and the fast six. So anyway, he finished fourth. So on the process. But great result. Santino Ferrucci in fifth is a great result. AJ Foyt Racing always does well at the 500, and to see Santino qualifying fifth is amazing. Pato's in sixth. The rest of the McLarens are trash, but Pato got it up to sixth. Kiffin Simpson in 7th, a great result for him. He beat Scott Dixon, who drew the number 1 straw. So, and Kiffin was kind of ran much later in the session. So good run for Kiff. Connor Daly has been fast all month. 8th is okay. I would think from his results earlier in the month that he might do a little better than that. Scott McLaughlin in a Penske last year was on the pole. This year he's 9th. 10th, my favorite qualifier of the year is Kyle Collette. He, never driven at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's driving for AJ, and he 10th place. The only thing is they found a violation in his car, so he's going to the back, and Scott Dixon will be in 10th. Interesting top 10 for sure. So let's look at the bottom 10, and I'll go back from last, because that's always interesting as well. Stingray Rob had a horrible run. Like, his car hasn't been super slow, but his run was not right. The car was not right. He was lifting all the way off the gas in a couple of the corners, and it just looked like a handful. So I don't know if they didn't assemble it right or something's going on with the car at Juncos, but I don't think anyone in the field could have driven that car any faster than 33rd place. It wasn't even close. Jacob Abel has been faster than 32nd most of the month. He didn't get a great draw. He drew 32nd, which, so the later you draw, the worse. But he finished 32nd. Dennis Hauger, Dale Coyne's cars have not been fast, and Dennis was not that fast. Graham Rahal, the Rahal cars have struggled in the last few years, and Graham has as well. He's 30th. Jack Harvey is 29th qualifier, but he'll end up at the back for a technical violation. Connor and Jack are on the same team. Jack's car's been slower all month. They only get one engine when you're doing just the 500. Maybe you got a good one. Maybe Connor got a good one and Jack got a bad one. Who knows? Mick Schumacher's in 28th. I was really hoping to do well this season, but he's not really appearing to catch on to this very well, And Catherine Legg in 27th. Now, Catherine Legg she ran last in the field of 33, so she had the worst draw and really had an excuse to qualify last. Her car hasn't been on track as much as some of the other cars, but she hammered down and she put a 27th, so that's pretty good. Kyle Kirkwood is 26th. Who knows? Something's going on in that car. It's not right. I'm sure they're looking for some speed. 25th, Romain Grosjean, another Dale Coyne car, is not doing well. And 24th is Joseph Newgarden. He's one of the guys that I would have picked to win the race, and he's starting 24th. So that's not all that great. So, all right, so that's qualifying. Let's talk about what's next. Well, practice didn't go so well today. It got cut off because of the crash. And the next practice is the last practice, called Carb Day. It's on Friday. It's called Carb Day, by the way, because back in the day it was when you set your carburetors, because the weather was most likely going to be the same between Friday and Sunday. So everybody set their carburetors, their carbs, on Friday, hoping the weather would be similar. There's a lot of adjusting of carburetors back in the day. They didn't have fuel injection and computers. So Carb Day is the best chance to tune the car for the race, except the current weather report shows really heavy rain on Friday. So we'll see. No Carb Day would be interesting because the teams have not had a ton of time to work on race pace, but we'll see. Some of the teams have, of course. If there is no Carb Day, and I were you and trying to win some money on the betting sites, I would go back and look at last Tuesday and Wednesday's practice times and see which team was doing well and which team was in the dirt. So that might give you some help, because that's usually when they were working on race pace. So that's good for the week. I'm not going to do winners and losers. I think I already kind of covered it. And I will do one more podcast probably before the 500. I'll be at the track on Carb Day. I'll be in downtown Indianapolis on Saturday watching the parade. And of course, I'll be at the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. If you see me, please say hi. A lot of people have been saying hi to me, and it really warms my heart. And I do love to meet new people that are IndyCar fans. I want to know who your driver is. I just want to know where you're from and that type of thing. It's just something I really enjoy. I created this account to make more friends when I go to the IndyCar races, and that means you. So if you see me at the track, say hi. I'm friendly. Thanks. This is IndyCar news in a lot more than 5 minutes, but I thought it was an important one. So thanks for watching. You'll find me on all the major podcast networks, YouTube, and all of that. Have a great one. See you at the races.